Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? A quick one. Actually, this is not going to be a quick one because I'm going to do a review. Before I do so, Hijab 10 and you get 10% off these premium black seed products. Another thing I wanted to say was, in addition to this, alhamdulillah, you guys have been able to raise money, £55,000 for a life village, which will have amazing economic benefits for this village, which can now, I mean, you don't understand how amazing this is, because people in Ghana now, in Tamale, they'll be able to educate themselves and to do all these things. You can get a school built with that money. We're going to have a mechanical boreholes and so on. All of that installed in the area. What I wanted to speak to you guys about today was my 5 years, it's half a decade now, and the debates I've done. I've done many informal debates, but I've done six formal ones, major formal ones. Yeah, obviously the main one that I done with the most views and the most controversy was the one with David Wood. That's one debate. I've done a debate with I'm not in order here, but I've done a debate with Lars Gule on liberalism. I've done a debate with Edward Tabash on atheism. I've done a debate with I've done a Shia debate. I forget the guy's name actually, but he was one of the Shia people, mullahs, or I've done two of those actually, which I would consider two formal debates with the Shia, and obviously the one with Cosmic Skeptic as well. So these are 6 debates in Oxford University, hosted by the Forum, the Oxford University Forum. So these are the 6 major debates I've done in the 5 years. Other than that, you know, obviously I've done a lot of informal stuff. And what I wanted to put to you is that there's a recurring trend as to what happens usually after these debates. These debates, if you add them together, we're talking about tens of millions of views. Yeah, not just on my channel, but on whoever's channel that they went on. And they were translated into many languages. Many of them have been translated into many languages. So we're talking about audiences from across the world. Yeah. And my own personal experience with them is that a lot of people have actually converted to Islam from them. And that's not just me saying this. I can provide evidences if one want me to look into my inboxes and, oh, I've become Muslim after watching the David Wood debate, etc. That has happened, okay? A lot of people have, from the Muslim community, obviously have, especially with the David Wood debate, have felt, okay, they had some doubts which were then dismissed and so on. These are some of the positives. But in terms of from the other side, what are some of the recurring themes that we find from the other side? Some of the recurring themes relate to my demeanor, how I actually interrogate my opponent, how I actually deal with my opponent. Now, most people will not deal with my arguments, because if you think about all of the arguments I've ever put forward in public debates, yeah, when there's a controversial backlash, it's not usually on what I am putting forward in terms of content. Like, for example, with the David Wood debate, I made 3 arguments, one from scripture, one from rationality, and one from history. That the Trinity was a historical development, that it wasn't something which was there from the very beginning, and over 300 years it was developed. That was my argument. And that it doesn't make sense. That was another part of the argument. Scripturally, it's not something which is naturally inferred from the plain reading of the text. That's something else I said. And these 3 arguments are interlinked. Where is the post-debate backlash on the arguments that I made? There isn't really much. I'll be honest with you. There isn't much. There's usually an attack on how I dealt with David Wood. He's very obnoxious. He's a very bad man. He's very, okay, no problem. I haven't got a problem being labeled a bad man and a hypocrite and dishonest and obnoxious. And let me just put that out there for you guys. I'm very happy that you guys had to do that, because at the end of the day, that's not an argument against my argument. That's not a counter argument. Same thing now with Tabash and Lars Gule. By the way, I have a very cordial relationship, especially with Edward Tabash. I still speak to him on emails. There wasn't really much of an issue, and he did attempt in his debate to deal with my arguments. He did attempt to deal with the actual argument. The argument I usually put forward to atheists is a contingency argument. I've written a book about it, and you know, I feel confident about that argument. I feel it's a strong argument, so I put that argument forward, and that wasn't refuted. That was attemptedly refuted, but I don't think it was successfully refuted. So with Lars Gule, the liberalism thing was a back and forth. And actually, if you think about that debate with Lars Gule on liberalism, there was actually agreement on that debate that liberalism is based on axiomatic presuppositions, therefore it can't be used as an, It cannot be used as a kind of barometer for all kinds of morality and so on and so forth. Yeah. My two other debates now with the Shia, it was a straightforward argument. The two debates with the Shia was the same argument, that all of the usul al-din, the foundations of the religion, are found in the Quran. Like, for example, we have hadith of Jibril, the hadith of Jibril, that we believe in when the Prophet was asked, وَمَا الْإِيمَانِ أن تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر والقدر خيره وشره, that you believe in Allah and the messengers and the books and the angels, and these are the what you call the pillars of Iman of Islam. My argument was, okay, we have all of the pillars of Islam, of Iman in the Quran, but we don't have Imama in the Quran, any explicitly stated. So you try and infer it or try and squeeze it in, try and do an eisegesis. That was the argument. So was that argument refuted? No, it wasn't. And it continues to be made. And that argument was made twice. And do you know what? If I ever see a Shia again and I debate them with about this, I'll probably make the same argument, because why should I fix something which is not broken? I might phrase it differently or something, but I think it's a very strong argument. My debate with skeptic was the same thing. I put forward a contingency argument. In terms of the backlash I got, you're a dishonest man, you're a bad man, you stopped the comments, you misrepresented me, you misquoted me. Okay. Let's grant for the sake of argument that I did all of those things. Okay? I'm a bad man, I'm dishonest, I'm a hypocrite, I'm a thug, I'm violent, I'm all of those bad things, which, by the way, on your morality cannot be described as bad. It's just all of those characteristics from your perspective. It can't be bad, because on what basis is it bad? But all of those things, right? I'm a thug, I'm all of those things, yeah? Okay, but what happened to my contingency argument? What happened to my argument for Islam being the truth? What happened to the arguments that I put forward for you? Because at the end of the day, I didn't get any, from all of the reactions I've gotten, I didn't get one thing say, oh, his argument was wrong. Even when he tried to, in his post-debate commentary, tried to refute me on points of difference on the logical forms of the argument. So P, if P entails Q, and P is true, then Q must be true. And I said no. So yeah, obviously, if that form is correct, yeah. And he said, you're inconsistent. Okay, even if I was inconsistent there, for the sake of argument, let's say I was inconsistent, no problem. How does that disturb my contingency argument? Because we misunderstood each other on that point. That was the only substance-based thing that you said in your post-debate discussion. How does that disturb my main contention? Just to remind everyone of what the contingency argument is, because I think it's very important, yeah? Is that there can't be a world of just possible existences. And possible existence is not just one thing. Possible existence is just not just defined as something that can be any other way. It's also something which is dependent, i.e. reliant on something else in order to exist. So these two definitions must be put together in order for you to understand what mumkin al-wujud, or possible existence, is. It's not just something which could have been any other way, but it's something which is dependent. So let me put this straightforwardly for anyone to understand, for any atheist. So maybe because I think what's been lost in translation here is the actual argument. Too much is being said, oh, you said, she said, he said, you're a bad man, dishonest, whatever. Okay, I'm a bad man. Pretend I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. I for the sake of argument, I agree. And not even for the sake of argument, I don't consider myself a good man. Yeah, I don't. I actually don't. I don't have a high regard for. I don't think I'm not a bastion of impeccable virtue and character. I'm not saying that this is the representation, an archetype. No, we say that that's Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam anyway. So I don't have any moral obligation to be a good man to anyone. Yeah, but my arguments are my arguments. So what is the argument? The argument is that dependent things cannot depend upon other dependent things ad infinitum. That's the argument. Because if you have dependent things dependent upon dependent things ad infinitum, okay, then you have, in this analogy, like dominoes falling upon each other. So let me give you another analogy, right? If you go to the sea, you and I would be justified in believing that the sea has a sea floor. Yeah, we will both be justified in believing that the sea has a sea floor. But why would we be justified in believing that, having not seen the sea floor itself? We infer that from the fact that our mind, yes, almost intuitively realizes that there can't be just water balancing upon itself ad infinitely. There must be some kind of foundation here, right? So we say the same thing applies with existence. In the context of existence, everything that exists that we can see and feel and have experience with is dependent. So this t-shirt is dependent. It's this camera, this phone is dependent on some kind of charge, and so on and so forth. This is very important. The argument here is there cannot be just a world of dependent things without there being one independent that holds all the dependent things up. And we call this al-qayyum in Quranic terminology, or the maintainer, the one who rises everything up. It's also referred to as a samad. These are all Quranic terminologies. That's our basic definition of God. This is basically it. So the argument is, in order for you to refute my position, you have to show how it's possible for there to be a world of only dependent things with no independent thing at all. Okay? Because the moment you say there's an independent thing, then you've lost your atheism. You're no longer an atheist. You've become at least a deist. You've entered in to... I'm not saying this is all what God is, by the way. Yeah, I'm not saying, oh, God is only the independent one. No, we have so many things, so many attributes of God, which can be understood ipso facto through Quranic understanding. But that's aside the point. So the argument has not been refuted. I'm afraid the argument has not been refuted. There has been no... In fact, what makes me really upset with my final debate is that there has not been even an effort to refute the argument. There's been more of an effort to refute me. Oh, you're a dishonest man. There's a misrepresentation. You know, you're a bad man. Okay. All of those things are fine. I know you're going to say that. Yeah. You can call me whatever you want. But my argument is robust. And you know what? It's not my argument. The reason why it's so robust is because it's been persistent throughout the ages. This argument is one that's been made throughout the Hellenistic period, throughout the medieval period, into the Enlightenment period, and currently made through, you know, in popular academics. So it's something, and it's an Eastern academic tradition and Western academic tradition. This is something which is effectively irrefutable. So the argument has not been refuted. Atheism hasn't got a leg to stand on. Yeah, you misrepresented me. You're a bad man. You're blocking the comments. Hold comments for review. Okay, all those things. I agree. I do hold comments for review, because you know why? Because when I see a lot of people coming in and start saying your prophet is a P word, you're this and that, and I can't delete all of that. I'm on the go and this and that. So what? I say, what? I'm going to hold it for review. I've got some people that are managing my admin. I say, look, if the comments are conducive, put them through. If they're not conducive, then, you know, do what you want with them. Either leave them or delete them. So yeah, we don't need to. We have no obligation to allow you to insult us. I'm sorry. And if you think we do, yes, khalas, you have your religion, I have mine. You have your way, I have my way. But so just to kind of finalize this, yeah, the 6 major debates that I've done and the 3 major books that I've written, I'm sorry to say, all of them have the main arguments I've made throughout my works, either in formal debates or my books, have not been refuted. And it's not because, oh, I'm very clever, and it's not because I'm clever. I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm taking examples and arguments which have been made historically and continue to be made now. For millennia, these arguments have been made for thousands of years. So all I'm doing is presenting them to you. I don't expect you to be able to deal with them because no one has been able to deal with them before you. Do you get it? But at least have the integrity and decency to try and challenge it. Try and challenge the argument. Say, okay, you know what? I might not agree with Mohammed Hijab. He's a bad man, blah, blah, blah. However, his arguments. Deal with the arguments. Stop dealing with me. Okay, I'm a bad man. You won. I'm a bad man. You know what? I put my hands up. I'm a very bad man. I don't even want you to think of me as a good man. You know why? As the Arabic poet said, قد قيل لله أسماء مصنفة تتلى إذا ردت للقرآن ترتيلا. That even about Allah they say bad things. You'll be able to see this about Allah. So about God himself, obviously if you're an atheist here watching this stuff, no problem, you don't believe in God, but for us God is the be all and end all. Yeah, for us God is the axiom or the if you like the light that makes everything else possible to see. So if you're going to belie God, then by virtue of that fact, you're going to belie human beings who call to his way. Yeah, or promote God in any way. So it makes sense, right? No problem. So this is my message. I've got published works. I've got 6 debates. If someone is serious about wanting to refute me, yeah, it's been watched tens of millions of times. All of those debates together, tens of millions, yeah. if someone is serious about wanting to refute me, then be very serious by making an academic response to the main argument. And let me be very specific here. If I made mistakes in my presentation that does not affect, be very careful what I'm saying. If I make mistakes in my presentation which does not affect the veracity and robustness of my main argument, you refuting those mistakes is not tantamount to you refuting my argument. That's just you refuting me, my fallibilities. You're just outlining my fallibilities. So this is my message to everybody. Look, the arguments are there. And you know what? Last thing, I want to put this to everybody here, yeah? To the atheist community, to those who consider themselves liberals, to those who consider themselves Shia, to all of those who have ever debated. Here's what I'll say to you guys. And I want you to remember this. Yeah, I know you're waiting for me to engage here. But I saw a scroll, just, you know. Yes. What I want to say to you is that when you're refuting me, refute me on the basis of disproving my main argument. Such that your refutation, I'm telling you how to refute me, your refutation will nullify the argument. So yeah, for example, if I say for 300 years or for about 300 years or for X amount of years, X hasn't happened. Or let's say, let's use a real example. Or let's say the Trinity. It's irrationalizable. It's not something you can rationalize. 3 and 1 and 1 and 3. That's my argument. So you have to show me a way where it is rationalizable. David Wood didn't do that. His followers didn't do that. There has been things that are written on it, you know, and academically, but it's not respected outside of Christian echo chambers. So once again, atheism. When I say how did we get here? How did we get here? You say, okay, what are the options? Either we came from nothing, or the universe was always here. But what's it dependent on? So we go back to a contingency standpoint. You have to give us some kind of rationalizable. If you don't want to, then you have to defeat what we're saying. You don't say, okay, I'm an agnostic. No problem, you can be an agnostic, but you have to defeat what we're saying. Why is it that the contingency argument is, for example, there's other arguments, but I'm just giving you this one. Why is it wrong? Why is it wrong? Why doesn't it work? Do you see the point? So instead, okay, the Shia polemic, when I say, okay, well, there's nothing in the Quran about the Imams explicitly, but there is about this. You have to show, actually, there is something in the Quran. That will disprove me straight away. Actually, look at this verse. It says, you know, X. Or your criteria is wrong, and this is why your criteria is wrong. You have to be robust. Yeah? So, in a nutshell, what I want to bring to the people is, I know it boils the blood of the people who cannot refute robust arguments to see me do I do. I know it does. And you know what? If I was on the other side, I'd probably have boiled blood as well. And I'd be eating myself up and speaking about this man's debates 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years after he died. You know, and you know what? I'm very happy that you do that, because it shows me it's successful. Because if my debates were not successful, you wouldn't even talk about it. But here's my challenge to all of those people that are against what I believe in. You have to disprove my main arguments. And they're on the public record, and they're also in written form. So it shouldn't be that difficult. And that's how you're going to show me that I'm not only that I'm wrong, because I know I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm very bad and wrong. But what I believe in is wrong. And there's a big difference between the two. Dishonest man, misrepresent this and that. Yeah, no problem. But is what I believe in wrong? You're going to have to show me the evidence for that. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.